The base is angry. They're turning up the heat on members of Congress, flooding Capitol Hill phone lines, swarming streets and demonstrations across the country. Protest Saturday is essentially a thing now, and bringing confrontation to town halls. As we've said, in many ways, this looks like 2009 all over again, when Tea Party activists made their voices heard. But this time it's the left that's angry. And for the time being, it appears the progressive base is taking command of the Democratic Party, as senators essentially are abiding by that bumper sticker. If the people will lead, the leaders will follow. Well, these Senate leaders are following. Jennifer Palmieri was communications director for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign, and she joins me now. So, number one, I'm certain you're wondering, where was this energy before the election in November? But what do you do with this energy? And
that's not a healthy thing to focus on.
No, I understand that. I understand that, but the energy is there now.
The energy is there now, and we should be happy for it, and we should embrace it.
So there's two ways that Democrats, I think, are. You have the sort of the conventional Democratic strategists like Rahm Emanuel, who says, chill out, take time, find the right candidates. And then the base is saying, no, we're not going to be patient. We're not going to have time. What should the party do?
I think that I wouldn't overlearn the lessons from the Tea Party, because I think it's folly to compare energy and movements on the left and right. I mean, we're just built very differently. And I think that there's a couple of things happening on the left. I think that you do have the base that's very energized, and I don't know that they're angry so much as they are scared, and they're very concerned. And they also understand that they need to speak up as Americans, not just as progressives. And then I think you have people who, members of my own family who are not political in the least, who are showing up at protests, who want to know, what's the next thing I can do that shows support for refugees, or shows that I don't agree with Donald Trump's view of America. Now, I think that the Democrats on the Hill, they are bearing a lot of responsibility, and they're in a difficult position because they're trying to confirm a cabinet that is going to be administering the policies of the United States government. That's a big responsibility. And they're also trying to balance politics there.
But are these hills to die on? I mean, I was watching,
well,
you look at the Betsy DeVos thing,
right?
Okay, and obviously what they've done with Sessions. The votes are there. You know what's going to happen. And you can make an argument with DeVos because it was a one vote that maybe all of that could convince one more Republican or something like that. So
and Trump had a bad weekend, so maybe being the first person up after Trump had a bad weekend may be
I buy making
scary.
that bet. It's a long shot, but at what point does this sort of like,
so
if you have failure after failure, you're showing the energy, but you're not winning.
I see that. So I think a couple of things. I think that until we get to at least March, you're just really not going to know how this president behaves and how Democrats and the press and the public react, right? So I think that we're in a testing phase. If I were the Senate Democrats, I would do what they have done, which is we're going to treat this seriously. We're going to ask all the questions. We're going to play it out, and we're going to take each nomination seriously. And whether we win or lose, we're going to ask all the questions and look, and we couldn't have predicted that the Elizabeth Warren moment would have happened, and that is beneficial. But I think what it tells me, the fact that people are getting pressured about the nominations, which are important, but there are more important things happening in the country, tells me is that we should Democrats in Washington, we should turn our attention to the country. And that, I think rather than the senators just focusing on the nominations and thinking that's all they have before them, go and, as you saw them do at some points, go out and join into a protest on a refugee. Go out and figure out how you can help somebody be making sure that they're getting to their community health center so they can get health care. Go out to a work site where somebody's worried that they're going to get picked up, rounded up, and deported, and show support there. Like, there is a lot of ways Democrats in Washington can get out of Washington and pick up on the energy and help support what people out in the country are trying to do. And I think that's how you avoid the trap of getting hung up on, Ben Carson's nomination.
We're right. Where Elizabeth Warren found out that even agreeing to that in committee was going to rile up the base.
Right, but
she had to apologize for it.
But then engage on something that's more meaningful outside of Washington.
What's the you were on the other side of this when Tea Party was rising up in different phases.
Yeah.
What do you know now that you wish you knew then about this, about a movement like this, where you weren't quite sure what to make of it. And granted, you saw it
yeah.
as opposition. This time, do you see any similarities?
I do. I see a continuum, and I think you have to. I think Trump is the outcome not just of the Tea Party, but of what Gingrich started. I think that he started a fire where they're willing to burn a village down to inherit it, and also a politics that wasn't based on substance. So
more of an emotional politics. You mean?
It's more emotional, and if they did have substance, they were largely advocating for policies that didn't help working class people who they counted on to vote for them. So if you're bankrupt of ideas and you're fostering anger, does Donald Trump hijack your party? Yes, he does. So I think a lesson for Democrats is to make sure that along the way, and even an upside, at least, to engaging with the public while Trump is president is there are things you can literally do in your own life to be supportive, to resist him, to help, and I think that's empowering for people.
But what do you do to make sure you don't allow that the movement doesn't allow a hijacking of the Democratic Party?
Because I don't believe that. I actually think the real energy is not just with the base. These are apolitical people that are turning out. These are millions of people who don't normally participate in politics, and they are scared, and they also understand. And I saw this, obviously not as much as we needed in the election, but I saw in the fall, our crowds grow, the concern in the crowd, you could feel the concern in the crowds, people thinking, this country just exists because we agree to live by a certain set of rules. And it is incumbent upon me as an American to stand up and say, Donald Trump does not represent what I view America to be. And I think that a lot of this energy is not, the base is there, but you are wrong to look at these crowds and think that means everyone wants $15 an hour.
Don't assume this is a policy
Don't assume
push.
Don't assume that the answer to big crowds
Right.
is moving policy to the left. I think the answer to the big crowds is engaging as much as you can to be as supportive as you can and understanding. I mean, what these people want, they are desperate. It's all about identity on our side now. They want to show, he does not support me. I support you, refugee. I support you, immigrant in my neighborhood. I want to defend you. Women who are rejecting Nordstrom's and Neiman Marcus they're saying this is power for them. Donald Trump doesn't take me seriously. Well, I'm showing you my value and my power. And I think it's like our own version of identity politics on the left that's more empowering. And I think that's a safer place to be.
All right, we shall see. I think you're right. Washington Democrats are kind of grasping. They're trying to figure this out.
Yeah, but I mean, they have a job to do, and they have this other burden of being the only game in town in terms of having of the resistance. So I think, but there's a lot of energy out in the country that they should engage in.
All right. Jennifer Palmieri, I will leave it there. Nice to see you.
Pleasure.